I didn't miss out on college because I hated school. I missed it because, when I was 18, I told my family the truth about myself, and the truth cost me almost everything. Before that night, I still had a small, stupid hope that love could make people softer. I thought maybe my parents would be shocked at first, maybe angry, maybe quiet for a few days. But eventually, they would look at me and remember I was still their son. That was not what happened. My father stood in the living room with his arms crossed, his face so cold it barely looked like his face anymore. My mother sat on the couch, holding a tissue in one hand, but she wasn't crying for me. She was crying like I had embarrassed her. "So this is what you're choosing?" my father asked, his voice low and sharp. I swallowed hard. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to stand straight. "I'm not choosing to be gay. I'm just choosing not to lie about it anymore." My mother looked up at me then, her eyes red. "James, please don't say that word like it's normal." That sentence hurt more than my father's anger. Because anger was loud. Anger burned fast. But shame sat in the room like smoke, filling every corner until I could barely breathe. I packed a bag that same night. Not a dramatic suitcase like in movies. Just one old backpack, 2 hoodies, 3 shirts, a pair of jeans, my phone charger, and the little cash I had saved from part-time jobs. I remember standing in my bedroom doorway, looking back at the bed I had slept in since I was a kid. For 1 second, I wanted someone to call my name. No one did. There was one person I called before I left town. His name doesn't matter now. He was my best friend in high school. My first love, even if we never knew how to say that out loud without being scared. We had held hands in his car once, parked behind the football field after a Friday night game. Both of us staring straight ahead, like looking at each other would make the moment too real. When he picked up, his voice sounded nervous. "James, are you okay?" I stood outside a gas station with my backpack against my feet, the night air cold against my face. I told them. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then he whispered, "What happened?" I laughed, but it came out broken. Exactly what we were afraid would happen. He breathed in shakily. I could almost see him sitting on the edge of his bed, one hand in his hair, trying to find courage he didn't have. "Come with me," I said before I could stop myself. The silence that followed gave me my answer before he did. "James," his voice cracked. "I can't." I closed my eyes. My chest hurt, but strangely, I wasn't surprised. Maybe a part of me had already known. "It's okay," I whispered. "No, it's not," he said quickly, guilt spilling through the phone. "I care about you. I do. I can't lose my family too." I looked at the empty road ahead of me, the streetlights stretching into the dark like a path I didn't ask for. "Everyone gets to choose," I said softly. "I guess this is your choice." He cried then. I heard it, but I didn't ask him to change his mind again. After the call ended, I sat on the curb for a long time. I was sad. Of course I was sad. Losing your family and your first love in the same night doesn't make you brave. It just makes you tired. But somewhere under the pain, I had one strange, stubborn thought. Maybe it was better this way. Maybe it was better that it happened early, before I built my whole future around someone who would still let go of my hand when the road got hard. If we had stayed together for years, if I had trusted him with more of my heart, and he still chose a life without me, maybe it would have destroyed me worse than this. So I got on a bus to a city where no one knew my name. I arrived with very little money, no college plan, no family, and no idea what I was supposed to do next. For 2 days, I walked from diner to diner, cafe to cafe, asking if anyone needed help. Most people said no. Some looked at me like I was trouble before I even opened my mouth. Then I walked into a small neighborhood restaurant with warm yellow lights, the smell of coffee and grilled onions in the air, and an older man behind the counter wiping his hands on a towel. He looked at me for 1 second and said, "You look like you haven't eaten properly in days." I froze. "I'm looking for work, sir." The man studied me. His eyes were serious, but not unkind. "Work can wait 10 minutes. Sit down first." "I don't have money to." He raised one hand and cut me off gently. "I didn't ask if you had money. I said sit down." That was Joseph. He gave me a bowl of soup, a sandwich, and a glass of water. I tried to eat slowly, but my hands betrayed me. Joseph didn't comment. He just leaned against the counter and waited until I looked human again. Then he asked, "You running from something, kid?" I should have lied. I should have made up a simple story. But I was too exhausted to keep pretending. So I told him everything. When I finished, I expected that look. The one people gave when they didn't know whether to pity me or judge me. Joseph only sighed, sat across from me, and said, "Love is a choice each person gets to make. No one has the right to judge it. Who you love doesn't decide whether you're a good person or a bad one." I stared at him. Then I cried. Not pretty crying. Not quiet movie crying. I covered my face with both hands and broke down right there in a restaurant booth because a stranger had given me the sentence my own family couldn't. Joseph didn't rush me. He just placed a napkin beside my hand and said softly, "Take your time, James." That day, he gave me a job. A week later, he gave me a small room above the restaurant, one that used to be storage before he cleaned it out, added a narrow bed, and made it feel livable. He said it wasn't much. To me, it felt like a miracle. Joseph became the person who saved me. Not because he gave me work, not even because he gave me a place to sleep. He saved me because, when my whole world turned its back on me, he looked at me and still saw a good kid worth helping. And for the first time since leaving home, I started to believe I might survive. Almost a year passed after the night Joseph took me in. By then, I was 19, and somehow, without noticing exactly when it happened, I had become part of the place. The restaurant wasn't fancy. It sat on a quiet corner between a laundromat and a small pharmacy, with red vinyl booths, framed old photos on the walls, and a bell above the front door that rang every time someone came in. In the morning, the whole place smelled like coffee, bacon, toast, and whatever soup Joseph decided to start before sunrise. Joseph called it a neighborhood restaurant. I called it home. At first, I only washed dishes, wiped tables, and carried plates when the lunch rush became too much. But Joseph slowly taught me everything. How to check inventory, how to talk to suppliers without sounding nervous, how to balance the register at the end of the night, how to smile at customers even when my feet hurt so badly I wanted to sit on the floor and become part of it. "You're good with people," Joseph told me one evening while I was counting receipts behind the counter. I looked up, confused. "I'm just saying hello." Joseph pointed a pen at me, his eyebrows lifting like he had caught me lying. "No, you remember things. Mrs. Clark likes extra lemon in her iced tea. Mr. Bennett hates onions, but always forgets to say it. Kate wants her coffee strong enough to scare her boss." From the booth near the window, Kate lifted her paper cup and called out, "That is not an insult. That is my lifestyle." I laughed, and Joseph gave me a look that said, "See?" Officially, I was still a server and part-time shift lead. Unofficially, Joseph called me his tiny manager. I made schedules when he got tired. I helped with the books. I checked the weekly expenses, compared food costs, and suggested small changes, like adding a lunch combo for office workers nearby. Joseph pretended to act annoyed when I brought him ideas, but the next week, he always tried them. One night, while we were closing, Joseph leaned against the counter and watched me fill out the order sheet for the next morning. "You ever think about going back to school?" he asked. My pen stopped moving. I tried to keep my voice light. "I think about a lot of things." Joseph didn't laugh. He just looked at me in that calm, patient way of his. "Community college is nearby. You could take business classes. Maybe part-time at first. I can help with the tuition." My chest tightened so fast I almost forgot how to breathe. I wanted to say yes. That was the worst part. Before everything happened, I had wanted to go to college. I had wanted business school, maybe marketing, maybe management. I used to imagine myself in a classroom with a laptop full of notes, complaining about exams like a normal 19-year-old. But normal felt expensive. Normal felt like something other people got to have. I lowered my eyes back to the paper. "Joseph, you've already done too much for me." Joseph's face softened. "Helping you isn't a burden, kid." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I know, but I don't want to become one." He was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed, not angry, just sad in the way parents get when they know you're hurting but can't force you to stop. "You're stubborn." I wrote down 2 cases of eggs and tried to sound cheerful. "I learned from the best." Joseph snorted. "Don't blame me for your personality." Life went on like that. Work, coffee, customers, bills, small dreams folded neatly and placed somewhere I could still reach, but not yet hold. Then one morning, the bell above the door rang, and someone new walked into the restaurant. I noticed him because he didn't look like our usual breakfast crowd. He looked young for a director, probably in his late 20s, with the kind of serious gray suit that made him seem older than he was. His dark hair was neatly styled, his posture straight, his expression calm in a way that made people listen before he even spoke. The man beside him, Mr. Davis, was one of our regulars from an office building 2 blocks away. "Morning, James," Mr. Davis said as he walked in. "Table for 2, if you've got one." "Of course," I said, grabbing 2 menus. "Your usual booth?" Mr. Davis smiled. "You know me too well." The young man looked at me then. Not for long, just a polite glance. But somehow, I felt it like a tap against glass. I led them to the booth near the window. As I set the menus down, Mr. Davis turned to him and said, "Thomas, you'll like this place. Best coffee around. And Joseph actually knows what seasoning is." Thomas. The name suited him. It sounded like someone who signed important papers, gave calm answers in meetings, and had never once panicked over rent money. I poured water for them, keeping my expression professional, because I was good at that now. Mr. Davis leaned back and continued. "Everyone at the office is still getting used to calling you director. Feels strange having a new boss who looks younger than half the staff." Thomas adjusted his cuff with a small, almost embarrassed smile. "I'm not their boss. I'm just responsible for making sure the department doesn't fall apart." Mr. Davis laughed. "That's what a boss says when he doesn't want to sound like a boss." I placed a glass in front of Thomas, and for some reason, my fingers became very aware of themselves. A young director. That explained the suit. The quiet confidence. The tired eyes of someone carrying more responsibility than his age should allow. I was impressed. Truly impressed. And yes, unfortunately, he was handsome too. Not in a loud way. Not the kind of handsome that demanded attention. More like the kind that made you look once, then look away, then quietly want to look again. "What can I get you started with?" I asked, holding my notepad a little tighter than necessary. Mr. Davis ordered coffee and eggs like always. Thomas looked up from the menu. "Just coffee for now, please," he said. His voice was calm, low, polite. Black. Of course, I thought. Handsome young director with the soul of a 60-year-old man. "Coming right up," I said, somehow managing not to smile. As I walked back toward the counter, Joseph glanced at me. "What?" I whispered. Joseph wiped a mug with a towel, his mouth twitching. "Nothing." I narrowed my eyes. "That face is not nothing." He looked past me toward the window booth, then back at me with far too much amusement. "New customer?" I straightened my apron and lifted my chin. "I'm being friendly. It's part of the job." Joseph nodded slowly. "Of course. Very responsible." I ignored him and reached for a coffee cup. But while I poured Thomas's coffee, I caught myself glancing toward the window again. Just once. Maybe twice. And when Thomas looked up at the same moment, I quickly looked away, pretending the coffee machine had suddenly become the most fascinating thing in the world. I told myself I was only looking because he was a new customer. That was all. A good server paid attention. Someone who helped Joseph run the place paid even more attention. If a customer liked a quiet booth, I remembered. If someone preferred no ice, I remembered. If a handsome young director in a gray suit ordered black coffee and looked like he had been born tired, then obviously, as a responsible employee, I needed to remember that too. That was my professional explanation. My heart did not seem convinced. When I brought Thomas his coffee, Mr. Davis was talking about some office issue, using words like budget review and quarterly numbers. Thomas listened with one hand resting lightly near his cup, his expression calm but focused. He didn't interrupt. He didn't act important. He just listened like every word mattered. I set the coffee down in front of him. Black coffee. Thomas looked up. "Thank you, James." For some reason, hearing my name in his voice made my brain forget how to do its job for half a second. I cleared my throat and pointed toward Mr. Davis's plate. "And your eggs will be out in a few minutes." Mr. Davis grinned at me. "You're a lifesaver." "I try," I said, smiling back like a normal person. Then Thomas lifted the cup and took a sip. I was already turning away when he spoke. "This is really good." It was just a simple sentence. Customers complimented our coffee all the time. Joseph bought good beans from a local roaster, and I knew how to keep the machine clean. This was not new. But Thomas said it with this small, genuine smile that changed his whole face. Before that, he had looked polite. Handsome, yes, but a little distant, like someone standing behind a glass wall. Then he smiled, and suddenly that wall cracked just enough for sunlight to slip through. My hand jerked. The small plate I was holding tilted dangerously. I grabbed it with both hands before it could fall, but the silverware on top clinked loudly enough for Mr. Davis to notice. "You good there, James?" Mr. Davis asked, amused. "I'm great," I said too quickly. "Very stable. Professionally stable." Thomas's smile deepened, and that was worse. Much worse. I escaped to the counter before my face could fully betray me. Behind the register, Joseph was wiping down a stack of menus with the calm expression of a man who had just witnessed something hilarious and was waiting for the perfect time to attack. I narrowed my eyes at him. "Don't." Joseph didn't even look at me. I didn't say anything. "You were about to." He lifted one shoulder, innocent as a saint. "Maybe I was going to compliment your excellent plate-catching skills." I busied myself with refilling water glasses, pretending not to hear the laughter in his voice. Thomas and Mr. Davis stayed for about 40 minutes. They talked quietly, finished their breakfast, and when Thomas paid, he left a neat tip under his cup. Before walking out, he glanced toward the counter. "Thanks again," Thomas said, his voice polite and warm. "The coffee was great." I nodded, trying very hard to look like someone whose pulse was normal. "Glad you liked it. Have a good day." Thomas smiled one more time. Then he left, and apparently, I kept staring at the door after he disappeared, because Joseph's voice floated over from beside me. "You know," he said casually, "he's been gone for 3 whole blocks by now." I snapped back to life. "What?" Joseph leaned on the counter, his eyes bright with amusement. 3 blocks. Maybe 4 if he walks fast. My ears burned. I grabbed a rag and wiped a perfectly clean spot on the counter. "I was just thinking about work." "Of course." Joseph nodded with exaggerated seriousness. "Very deep work thoughts. Tall, handsome, gray suit." "Joseph," he laughed under his breath. "He's good looking, isn't he?" I kept wiping the counter. "He's okay." Across the room, Mrs. Clark, one of our regulars, lowered her coffee cup and smiled like she had been waiting all morning for this. Joseph looked at her, then back at me. "Okay." Joseph repeated. "James, you almost dropped a plate because the man smiled at you." My face went hot so fast I wanted to climb into the dishwasher and live there. "I did not almost drop it," I argued weakly. "I caught it." Joseph pointed at me with the rag in his hand. "That is not the defense you think it is." Mrs. Clark laughed softly. A couple at the next table chuckled too. But no one laughed in a cruel way. No one stared like there was something wrong with me. They laughed the way families laughed when someone was terrible at hiding a crush. Joseph's expression softened, even though his smile stayed teasing. "So I was right, huh? Your heart is waking up again." I looked down, my fingers tightening around the rag. That sentence should have scared me. Instead, it made something warm ache inside my chest. "Joseph," I muttered, unable to stop smiling. "Please stop." He gave my shoulder a light pat as he passed behind me. "I'm happy for you, kid." That night, after the restaurant closed and the building became quiet, I lay in my small room upstairs and stared at the ceiling. I told myself it was nothing. Just a customer. Just a smile. Just a compliment about coffee. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Thomas looking up at me, that serious face softening into sunlight. And for the first time in a long time, I fell asleep thinking about someone new. The next morning, I woke up 15 minutes before my alarm. That almost never happened. Usually, Joseph had to knock on the ceiling from downstairs with a broom handle and yell, "James, if you don't come down, I'm feeding your breakfast sandwich to the trash can." But that morning, my eyes opened on their own. For a few seconds, I just lay there under the thin blanket, staring at the pale light coming through the small window. Then I remembered Thomas's smile. I sat up so fast my pillow fell off the bed. "No," I whispered to myself, rubbing both hands over my face. Absolutely not. We are not doing this. Apparently, my heart had not attended the meeting. By 7:30, the restaurant was already filling with the usual breakfast crowd. The bell above the door kept ringing. The coffee machine hissed. Plates clinked. Someone at table 5 asked for more syrup. Mrs. Clark wanted extra lemon in her iced tea, even though it was still morning, because Mrs. Clark believed rules were suggestions. I moved through the restaurant with my notepad tucked into my apron, smiling, refilling cups, and trying very hard not to glance at the front door every 2 minutes. I was failing. Joseph noticed, of course. He leaned beside the coffee station, pretending to check the pastry case. Door looks the same as yesterday, in case you were wondering. I poured coffee into a mug without looking at him. I'm watching for customers. Sure, Joseph said calmly. Specific customers? I gave him a look. All customers. Before Joseph could attack again, the bell rang, and Kate walked in like she owned the morning. She worked at the office building nearby and came in almost every day for coffee strong enough to restart a dead laptop. Morning, my favorite people, Kate announced, sliding up to the counter. James, save me. I have a meeting with Thomas at 9, and that man has the personality of a locked filing cabinet. My hand paused around the coffee pot. Joseph's eyebrows lifted. I tried to sound normal. Thomas. Kate gave me a tired look. New director Thomas. Handsome, serious, dresses like he was raised by a board of accountants. That Thomas. At the corner booth, Mr. Bennett lowered his newspaper and said, funny. Yesterday he seemed pretty friendly. Smiled at James and everything. Kate froze. Slowly, she turned to me. Excuse me. I suddenly became very interested in putting a lid on her coffee cup. What? Kate pointed one manicured finger at me. Thomas smiled. Mr. Bennett chuckled behind his paper and complimented the coffee. Kate stared like I had just performed surgery with a spoon. Thomas complimented something? Joseph coughed into his fist, badly hiding a laugh. I pushed Kate's coffee toward her. It was just coffee. Kate leaned closer, eyes wide with fake suspicion. James, sweetheart, do you have magic? I blinked. Magic? Yes, Kate said, lowering her voice dramatically. The kind that turns a wooden log into a moving human being. Before I could answer, the bell above the door rang again. Thomas walked in. The entire counter went strangely quiet. For half a second, Thomas stopped near the entrance, looking from Kate to Joseph to me. His dark coat was buttoned neatly, his hair still perfect in that unfair way, and his expression carried the polite confusion of a man who had just walked into the last 5 seconds of a joke. Good morning, Thomas said, his eyes finally landing on me. Everyone seems cheerful. Kate grabbed her coffee cup like it was a shield. Joseph smiled smoothly. Too smoothly. Morning, Thomas. Kate and James were just talking about a magic show on TV. I almost choked. Thomas looked at Kate first, then turned to me. A small smile touched his mouth. Interesting. Do you like magic? Kate's eyes went huge. She lifted her cup and stepped backward. Well, look at the time. I love employment. I should go keep mine. She practically ran out of the restaurant. Thomas watched her leave, confused but amused. Then he looked back at me. Did I miss something? I shook my head too quickly. No, nothing. Coffee. His smile warmed by one more degree. Please. That smile again. I turned to prepare his cup, telling myself to breathe like a normal person. Black coffee. Simple. No cream. No sugar. Easy. Except my hand moved on its own. One sugar packet. Then another. I realized what I had done right as Thomas took the cup from me. My soul left my body. Thomas lifted it to his lips and took a sip. I waited for his face to change, for him to cough, for him to politely say this was not what he ordered. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Still very good." My brain went completely blank. "Great," I said, my voice too bright. "That's great. Great coffee. Great morning. Great cup." Thomas's eyes softened like he was trying not to laugh. "Have a good day, James." "You too," I said, gripping the counter like it was the only solid thing left in the world. After he left, Joseph walked up beside me and stared at the door with great seriousness. "James," he said slowly, "did I see you put sugar in that man's black coffee?" I covered my face with one hand. "Twice the normal amount." Joseph nodded. and he said it was good. I lowered my hand, still burning with embarrassment. Maybe that's how he likes it. Joseph's smile spread across his face. Then I must say, his taste in coffee is very romantic. Joseph, what? He said, lifting both hands innocently. I'm only studying customer preferences. I groaned, but I couldn't stop smiling. And for the rest of the morning, every time the bell above the door rang, my heart looked up before I did. By lunchtime, I had convinced myself I was not waiting for Thomas. I was checking the door because lunch was our busiest time. That was all. Any responsible tiny manager would keep an eye on incoming customers, especially when 3 tables needed refills. One kid had dropped a crayon under booth 6, and Mr. Bennett was pretending he didn't need a 3rd slice of pie. Still, every time the bell above the door rang, my heart jumped first. And every time it wasn't Thomas, my heart sat back down like an embarrassed dog. Joseph noticed. Of course he noticed. That man could sense emotional disaster from behind a stack of pancakes. He walked past me carrying a tray and murmured, "Careful, kid. If you stare at that door any harder, it might start charging rent." I nearly dropped the water pitcher. I'm watching the floor. The floor is under your feet. The front floor. Joseph's mouth twitched. Very important floor. I gave him a look, but he only laughed and kept moving. Around noon, Kate rushed in with her work badge still hanging around her neck and the expression of someone who had survived a meeting but lost part of her soul. "Coffee," she said, leaning both hands on the counter. "Strong, dark, legal, if possible." I grabbed her usual cup. "That bad?" Kate exhaled so dramatically that Mrs. Clark looked over from her booth. Thomas had back-to-back meetings all morning. Everyone was tense. Someone said profit margin 15 times. I considered escaping through a window. My hand slowed on the coffee pot. Kate noticed immediately. Her tired expression sharpened into a smile. "Oh." I kept my eyes on her cup. "Oh what?" You heard the name Thomas and suddenly started pouring coffee like it was a sacred ritual. I pour coffee professionally. Kate rested her chin on her hand, clearly delighted. "Sure you do, sweetheart." I cleared my throat and put the lid on her cup. "So he's busy today?" Kate's smile softened a little, but not enough to be safe. "Yeah, big meeting with the regional team. I don't think he's leaving the office for lunch." "Oh," I said. One syllable. Very normal. Very casual. Apparently, not casual enough. Kate leaned closer. That sounded like a sad little "oh." It was a customer service "oh." From the grill, Joseph called without looking back. "That is not a real category." I ignored him. Then I looked at the espresso machine. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because Thomas had liked the coffee. Maybe because Kate said he was trapped in meetings. Maybe because I remembered the tiredness behind his serious eyes. Before I could talk myself out of it, I made a latte. Not too sweet. Just enough milk to soften the bitterness. I put it in a to-go cup, snapped on the lid, and slid it toward Kate. She looked down at it, then up at me. "And what is this?" I tried to stand taller. "Customer care." Kate's eyebrows lifted. "For Thomas." "For the office," I corrected quickly. "How many cups are in this office delivery?" I hesitated. Kate smiled wider. "James." I felt my face heat. He looked tired this morning. Her teasing expression softened for a second, like she understood more than she said. Then, because she was Kate, she immediately ruined the tender moment by tapping the cup with one fingernail. "So this is a confession latte." "It is not a confession latte." Mrs. Clark, who had absolutely been listening, said from her booth, "Sounds romantic to me." Mr. Bennett lowered his newspaper. "Better than flowers. More practical." Everyone around the counter broke into quiet laughter. I wanted to crawl behind the pastry case and become a muffin. "It's just good business," I insisted, even though my face was burning. "Happy customers come back." Kate picked up the latte with a grin. "Of course. And if the handsome young director happens to smile again, that's just market research." "Please leave," I muttered. She laughed, gave me a little salute with the cup, and walked out. For the rest of the afternoon, I worked like normal, but my mind kept drifting across the street too. That office building. I imagined Kate handing Thomas the latte. I imagined him looking confused. I imagined him smiling. Then I told myself to stop imagining things because hope was dangerous when it wore a nice suit. By closing time, the sky outside had turned soft blue-gray. Joseph was in the back checking inventory, and I was wiping down the last table when the bell above the door rang. "We're closed," I began automatically, turning around with a tired smile. "But we'll be open tomorrow at—" The sentence disappeared. Thomas stood near the entrance, one hand in his coat pocket, his tie slightly loosened. He looked more tired than he had that morning, but when he saw me, his expression warmed. "Sorry," he said. "I know you're closing." My fingers tightened around the rag. "No, it's okay." Hi. Brilliant. Very professional." Thomas stepped closer to the counter. "I came to pay for the latte." I blinked. "You don't have to." "It was just customer care?" he asked, his mouth curving. I froze. He knew. Behind me, Joseph appeared from the kitchen doorway at the exact worst moment, wiping his hands on a towel and looking far too entertained. I forced a smile. "Yes, customer care." Thomas glanced at Joseph, then back at me. "The service here is really good." Joseph chuckled. "James has a gift for business. Since he started helping me, the place has gotten busier." My face went hot all over again. "Joseph," Thomas looked at me, and his voice became gentler. I believed that. For a second, I forgot how to stand. Then Thomas asked, "Are you free tonight?" I stared at him. "Tonight?" He nodded. "I'd like to take you to dinner. To thank you properly." That latte saved me during a meeting where I was pretty sure my blood sugar and patience were both giving up. Joseph smiled behind me. "James can go. I can finish up here." I looked at Joseph, then at Thomas. My heart was already answering before my mouth did. "Okay," I said softly. "Dinner sounds nice." Joseph patted my shoulder as he passed by and whispered loudly, "Good luck, kid." Thomas smiled, and I tried very hard not to look like I needed it. I followed Thomas outside with my apron still in my hands because apparently my brain had decided to leave the building 5 minutes before my body did. The evening air was cool, carrying the smell of rain from somewhere far away. The streetlights had just flickered on, turning the sidewalk gold. Thomas's car was parked by the curb, clean and dark, and exactly the kind of car that made me suddenly aware of my worn sneakers. Thomas opened the passenger door for me. I stared at him for half a second. He paused, his hand still on the door. "Is this okay?" "Yeah," I said quickly, stepping closer. "Sorry, I'm just not used to people opening car doors for me." Thomas's mouth curved into a small smile. "I can stop if it makes you uncomfortable." "No," I said, then realized that sounded too eager. I cleared my throat and slid into the seat. "I mean, it's fine. Very normal. Doors exist. People open them." Thomas looked like he was trying not to laugh as he closed the door gently. When he got behind the wheel, he glanced at me. "You're sure you're okay?" I nodded too fast. "I'm very okay." That sounded like something people say right before they're not okay. I pressed my hands against my knees and forced myself to breathe. "I'm just a little surprised. That's all." Thomas didn't tease me. He simply nodded, started the car, and pulled away from the restaurant. "So," he asked after a moment, his voice calm, "what do you like to eat?" I looked out the window at the passing storefronts. "I'm not picky. That is the most dangerous answer." "It's true," I said, relaxing a little. After working in a restaurant, you learn to appreciate anything you don't have to cook or carry to someone else. Thomas laughed softly. It was a quiet laugh, but warm enough to make my chest tighten. He drove us to a steakhouse downtown, the kind with dim lights, dark wood, white napkins folded like tiny sculptures, and a hostess who smiled like she had been trained by royalty. I slowed down at the entrance. Thomas noticed immediately. "Too much." I tried to sound casual. "For a thank you dinner?" "Maybe a little." He looked genuinely unsure for the first time. "The steak here is good. I thought you might like it." That made it harder to complain, so I followed him. Inside, at the table, I opened the menu and almost dropped it. The cheapest entree cost more than what I usually spend on groceries for several days. One steak was almost half my daily pay. Another special, the one Thomas seemed to like, was close to a full day of work for me. I stared at the numbers so long they started to blur. Thomas closed his menu like he already knew what he wanted. "Do you like steak?" "I do," I said carefully. "Then you should try the house special." He looked at the server and ordered it for both of us, confident and polite. I barely heard the rest. When the food came, the steak looked perfect. Golden crust, butter melting on top, roasted potatoes on the side. It smelled amazing, and I just stared at it. Thomas set down his fork. His expression changed at once, concern replacing confidence. Is something wrong? I blinked. No, you don't have to eat it if you don't like it, he said, already glancing for the server. I can order something else. No, Thomas. I reached out without thinking and lightly touched his wrist. He froze. So did I? I pulled my hand back, my face heating. Sorry. I mean, the food is fine. It's more than fine. It's just, Thomas waited, giving me space instead of rushing me. I looked down at the plate and laughed once, quietly, because the truth felt embarrassing. It's been a long time since I ate something this expensive. I guess I feel a little guilty cutting into it. His face softened. I'm sorry. I didn't think about that. It's okay. No. Thomas said, his voice gentle but serious. I wanted to take you somewhere nice. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I looked up at him. For a young director who seemed so composed, he suddenly looked worried, almost clumsy with it. That made something inside me loosen. You didn't do anything wrong, I said softly. I'm just not used to someone being this nice to me. Thomas's eyes stayed on mine. For a second, the noise of the restaurant faded, the soft jazz overhead, the silverware, the low conversations around us. Then Thomas said, maybe you should get used to it. My heart gave one stupid, reckless jump. I hid behind my water glass. That sounds like a threat. Thomas smiled, smaller this time, but real. A polite one. I finally picked up my knife and fork. The steak was so good, I almost hated him for being right. Thomas watched my expression and relaxed. Good. I tried to stay dignified, but failed immediately. Unfortunately, yes. He laughed, and this time I laughed too. After that, dinner became easier. Thomas asked about the restaurant, about Joseph, about how long I had worked there. He didn't ask like he was collecting information. He asked like he actually wanted to know me. By the time we were halfway through dinner, I had stopped thinking about the price and started noticing the way Thomas listened. That was the dangerous part. The restaurant no longer felt like a place I didn't belong. It started feeling like a place where Thomas was sitting across from me, watching me with quiet eyes, asking questions like he wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere. So Joseph really lets you handle the books? Thomas asked, cutting into his steak with calm precision. I nodded, wiping my mouth with the napkin before answering. Not all of them. But I help with receipts, inventory, weekly costs. Sometimes I make small suggestions. Thomas looked interested. Not politely interested. Actually interested. What kind of suggestions? I felt my shoulders loosen a little. Lunch combos. Different pricing for coffee refills. We started offering a small office catering box because a lot of customers work nearby. Nothing fancy. Thomas leaned back slightly, his fork resting near his plate. That's smart. The words hit me harder than they should have. I laughed, looking down. You sound surprised. I'm not surprised, Thomas said, his voice steady. I'm impressed. My face warmed again, but this time it wasn't only embarrassment. It was something softer. No one really says that to me, I admitted. Thomas's expression changed. Why not? I moved a roasted potato around my plate, suddenly wishing I had taken a bigger sip of water before the conversation turned serious. Because most people who know my situation think I'm just trying to survive. Which is true. But surviving doesn't mean I stopped wanting things. Thomas didn't speak right away. He waited, and that made it easier somehow. So I kept going. I wanted to go to college, I said quietly. Business, probably. Maybe management or marketing. I had plans before everything happened. Thomas's eyes stayed on me, gentle but focused. Only if you're comfortable telling me. Before what happened? There it was. The doorway I usually avoided. I could have smiled and changed the subject. I could have said family stuff and left it there. But something about Thomas made lying feel unnecessary. I set my fork down. I came out when I was 18. Thomas didn't flinch. That was the first thing I noticed. He didn't look away. He didn't freeze. He didn't do that awkward smile people made when they wanted to prove they were fine, but weren't actually fine. He just listened. My family didn't take it well. I continued, my voice lower now. So I left home. I had a little cash, a backpack, and a very unrealistic belief that being brave would make everything hurt less. Thomas's jaw tightened, but not at me. More like he was angry on my behalf and trying to keep it contained. "I'm sorry," he said softly. I shook my head. "It's okay." His brows pulled together. "James." The way he said my name made me stop. Across the table, Thomas lowered his voice, but every word felt clear. "It's not okay just because you survived it." My throat tightened. For a second, I couldn't answer. I stared at the white tablecloth, at the candle flickering between us, at my own hands resting near the silverware. They looked steady, but inside, old memories were moving around like dust in sunlight. "There was someone too," I said after a moment. "Back then, a guy from high school." Thomas's expression softened, but he didn't interrupt. "I wanted him to choose me," I said, forcing a small smile that didn't quite work. "He couldn't. Or maybe he wouldn't. I don't know anymore. I try not to hate him for it." Thomas was quiet for a few seconds. Then he asked, carefully, "Do you still love him?" The question should have hurt. Instead, it felt honest. I looked up at Thomas. "No, not like that." His shoulders seemed to relax by the smallest amount. I almost smiled. Was that important information? Thomas picked up his water glass, but the corner of his mouth moved like he had been caught. "Maybe." That tiny answer made my heart stumble. I looked away first. Then I told him about Joseph. About the soup, the sandwich, the little room upstairs. About the sentence that had made me cry in a restaurant booth because no one in my own family had been able to say it. Joseph told me who I loved didn't decide whether I was a good person or a bad one, I said. I think that saved me more than the job did. Thomas listened with an expression I couldn't fully read. When I finished, he looked down at his plate for a moment, then back at me. "Joseph sounds like a good man." "He is," I said without hesitation. "He's my family now." Thomas nodded slowly. "I'm glad you found him." Something in his voice made me think he meant more than that. Like he was glad I had survived long enough to sit across from him in this restaurant. With steak I was still too nervous to fully enjoy and a heart that was trying very hard not to open too fast. I smiled down at my plate. "This is probably heavier conversation than you expected for a thank you dinner." Thomas's gaze warmed. "I asked because I wanted to know you." That sentence was simple. Too simple. And yet it made the whole room feel quieter. I swallowed, trying to hide how much it affected me. "Then you should know I'm usually less tragic and more useful with coffee." Thomas laughed softly. "Good. I happen to like your coffee." I pointed my fork at him, finding my courage again. "Even when it has too much sugar?" His smile deepened. "So you noticed?" I muttered. Thomas leaned forward just slightly, his eyes bright with amusement. "James, I drink black coffee every day." Of course I noticed. I covered my face with one hand. "And you still said it was good?" "I did." "Why?" Thomas's answer came gently, almost too gently. "Because you made it." For a few seconds, I forgot the steakhouse, the candle between us, the soft jazz playing somewhere above our heads. I forgot the price of the meal, the stiff white napkin on my lap, even the fact that I had told him more about myself in one dinner than I had told most people in a year. All I could do was stare at Thomas. He didn't look away. He didn't try to turn the sentence into a joke. He just sat there with that calm, serious face, like saying something that dangerous was perfectly reasonable. I laughed first because I had no idea what else to do. "That's a very unfair answer," I said, lowering my hand from my face. Thomas tilted his head slightly. "Unfair?" "Yeah." I picked up my water glass and took a sip just to give my mouth something to do. "It makes it hard for me to keep pretending this is just customer service." His smile appeared slowly, soft at the edges. "Were you still pretending?" I looked down at my plate. "I was trying." Thomas laughed quietly, and this time the sound didn't make him seem distant or polished. It made him seem young, human, maybe even a little nervous. Dinner ended more comfortably than it started. Thomas paid before I could even think of protesting, but when I opened my mouth, he held up one hand. "Please," he said, his voice gentle. "Let me." This was my invitation. I hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but next time, I'm choosing the place." Thomas looked at me over the receipt, his eyebrows lifting slightly. "Next time?" My face warmed instantly. I had walked into that one myself. I tried to recover with dignity. If there is a next time. Thomas signed the receipt, then looked up at me with a smile that made my recovery completely useless. I hope there is. On the drive back, the city lights slid across the windshield in long gold lines. I sat with my hands folded in my lap, trying not to replay every single moment of dinner like a teenager after prom. Thomas drove carefully, one hand on the wheel, his sleeves rolled up now, his tie loosened. Without the perfect director image, he looked softer. Still handsome, unfortunately. Very unfortunately. After a quiet minute, I glanced at him. Can I be honest? Thomas's eyes stayed on the road, but his attention shifted to me. I'd like that. When you first came into the restaurant, I thought you were hard to approach, I said. You looked kind of intimidating, like someone who never smiled unless a board meeting. Voted on it. Thomas blinked, then laughed. A real laugh this time. That bad? I smiled, feeling braver. A little. He shook his head, amused, then grew quieter. I am hard to approach. I turned toward him. Thomas kept his eyes on the road, but his voice became lower. I've had to be. At work, if I'm too friendly, people think I'm too young to be taken seriously. If I'm too quiet, they think I'm arrogant. So I learned to stay controlled. That made sense. More than I expected it to. But with you, Thomas continued, glancing at me for one brief second, it felt different. My heart stumbled. I tried to sound normal. Different how? He smiled faintly. You looked at me like you were trying very hard not to look at me. I nearly choked on air. That is not evidence. It was pretty convincing. I was doing my job. Very professionally, Thomas said, and the tiny curve of his mouth told me he knew exactly what he was doing. I turned toward the window, hiding my face. You're more annoying than you look. And you're easier to tease than I expected. The car stopped at a red light. For a moment, everything outside was still. The crosswalk, the glowing storefronts, the soft hum of traffic around us. Then Thomas asked, Are you seeing anyone? My breath caught. I looked at him, but he was watching the light, his fingers resting calmly on the steering wheel. Only the slight tension in his jaw gave him away. No, I said. I'm not. I've mostly been working, saving money, and trying to figure out school. Thomas nodded slowly. The light turned green, but his voice stayed quiet. Then do I have a chance? My brain heard the words. My heart understood them first. A chance. I repeated, because apparently I needed him to spell out the impossible. Thomas pulled into the small parking space in front of the restaurant before answering. He turned off the engine, then looked at me fully. A chance to date you, he said. The car suddenly felt too small. I stared at him, my hands frozen on my lap. Thomas, we just met. Isn't that a little fast? His expression softened immediately. You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pressure you. He looked away for the first time. That night, and seeing him uncertain did something terrible to my chest. Thomas exhaled, then gave a small, honest smile. I didn't want to miss the chance to know you. I understood that too well. Missing things. Losing chances. Letting people walk away because fear got there first. So I took a breath. I'm not saying no, I said softly. Thomas turned back to me. I could see the hope appear before he tried to hide it. I'm just surprised, I added, my voice quieter now. But yes, you have a chance. Thomas smiled then, slow and relieved, like I had handed him something fragile and precious. Good, he said. And the way he said that one word made me feel like the night had only just begun. For a few seconds after Thomas said good, neither of us moved. The engine was off, but the car still held the warmth of the drive. Outside, the restaurant windows were dark except for the soft light Joseph always left on above the counter. The street was quiet now, with only a few cars passing by and the distant sound of someone laughing outside the laundromat. I should have opened the door. I should have said goodnight like a normal person, walked upstairs to my little room, and screamed into my pillow like a responsible adult. Instead, I sat there with my hands in my lap, suddenly aware of how close Thomas was. Thomas looked at me, his expression calmer than mine, but not completely. I could see it in the way his fingers rested against the steering wheel, still and careful, like he was trying not to reach for something too soon. Finally, I cleared my throat. So, I should probably go in. Thomas nodded, but he didn't immediately look away. Yeah, you probably should. Neither of us moved. I let out a small laugh, mostly at myself. We're very good at ending a night. That made Thomas smile. Clearly, the silence returned, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt soft, like a blanket settling over both of us. After everything I had told him at dinner, after all the careful questions and honest answers, this quiet didn't feel empty. It felt full. I unbuckled my seatbelt. The clicks sounded too loud in the car. Thank you for dinner. Thomas turned slightly toward me. Thank you for saying yes. I looked down, trying not to smile too much. You make that sound like I accepted a business proposal. His eyes warmed. I was more nervous about this than any business proposal. That caught me off guard. Thomas, the young director who walked into rooms wearing perfect suits and calm expressions, was nervous because of me. I pressed my lips together, but the smile escaped anyway. Really? He nodded, his voice lower now. Really? My heart did that foolish thing again. The thing where it forgot all the lessons it had learned from being hurt. I reached for the door handle, but Thomas spoke before I could open it. James. I turned back. Yeah. Thomas hesitated, just for a second. Then he asked gently, Can I do one thing before you go? My breath caught. What thing? His eyes stayed on mine, careful and serious. Can I have a goodnight kiss? The question was so direct that my face went hot instantly. For one ridiculous second, I thought about Joseph inside the building. I imagined him somehow sensing this moment through the walls, already preparing jokes for tomorrow morning. Then I thought about myself, 18 and alone outside a gas station, thinking love only meant being left behind. This did not feel like being left behind. This felt like someone asking before stepping closer. I swallowed, nodded once, and leaned across the small space between us. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. I pressed a quick kiss to his cheek, so fast it barely counted as bravery, then pulled back immediately. There, I said, trying to sound calm. Good night. Thomas blinked once, then gave a quiet laugh. Not mocking, just surprised and fond. That was very professional, he said. I groaned softly. Don't start. I reached for the door again, but before I could leave, Thomas reached for my hand slowly. His fingers brushed mine first, careful enough that I could pull away if I wanted to. I didn't. So he held my hand gently, his thumb brushing lightly over my knuckles. James, he said, his voice softer now. Can I try again? My answer came out almost as a whisper. You're asking a lot for a first date that wasn't officially a date. His smile curved slowly. Then let me officially say I'd like the next one to be a date. I looked at him for one breath, then another. Okay, I said. Thomas leaned closer this time, slow enough that I could stop him if I wanted to. I didn't want to. When his lips touched mine, the whole world became quiet. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like fireworks exploding over the city. It was warmer than that. Softer. Like coming inside after standing in the cold for too long. Like someone putting a hand over the broken place in my chest and saying, not with words, I see you. When we pulled apart, I was smiling before I could stop myself. Thomas looked a little breathless too, which made me feel unfairly proud. You cheated, I whispered. His eyebrows lifted. Cheated. You asked for a goodnight kiss. That was clearly not the same thing as the one I gave you. Thomas's smile turned almost boyish. I'm sorry. I've wanted to do that since that first coffee. My chest warmed so fast it almost hurt. I looked down at our hands, still connected between us. Me too. The words came out before fear could catch them. Thomas's expression changed, softened, brightened, like I had given him something he hadn't dared to expect. His eyes asked before his mouth did. This time, I answered by leaning in first. A few minutes later, I finally stepped out of the car. Thomas waited until I reached the restaurant door before lowering his window. Good night, James, he called softly. I turned back, still smiling like an idiot. Good night, Thomas. Upstairs, in my little room, I lay on my bed with one hand over my mouth, trying to convince myself the night had really happened. The steakhouse, the car ride, his hand around mine, his lips on mine. Then my phone buzzed. Thomas, good night. I'm glad I didn't miss my chance. I stared at the message until my vision blurred a little. For the first time since I left home, I slept without feeling like I had to hold myself together in the dark. Before Joseph, I thought losing my family meant I had lost the place where I belonged. But Joseph gave me a home when I had nowhere to go. And now, somehow, Thomas had given my heart something I thought it had forgotten: hope. That night, I fell asleep smiling. For the first time in a long time, my life did not feel quiet and gray anymore.